November 4th, 1982. Joe Todd interview with Mr. Rooker and Mr. Gray.
Maybe you can tell something about it. Here's where we left, and all our officers and everything's on there.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get one like that?
I never did, I don't think.
Well, 60 some odd years, my wife had kept up with it, I guess. And
This is the 9th Division?
90th Division, and that's where we left for.
Blanchville was where we stayed when we were up there in the zone of activities, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a French town. I thought maybe I might go through there when I was over there.
Well, Stenay. Now, where was Stenay? Wasn't Stenay?
Stenay was up from there. Stenay was our headquarters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Mr. Rooker, if I can ask, where were you born?
I was born in Georgia. Blue Springs was the name of it at that time, and they changed the name of it since we left. It's Pleasant Hill now, I believe is the name of it.
What year were you born?
I was born in 1895.
1895? When is your birthday? What month?
The 24th of last September.
Yeah.
I was 80. I want to take off 10 years. 87 years old, the 24th September.
Yeah. Mr. Gray, when were you born?
I was born March the 8th, 1896, and I would say Kossuth County, Iowa, because it was out in the country. There's a town built on the place I was born on named Titonka. I didn't know Titonka, of course. Mm-hmm. I had breakfast in Algona, that's the county seat. And that's about my experience of Kossuth County since I left there. Mm-hmm. At 2 years of age or a little less.
My wife and I have been married. It'll be 63 years, the 4th day of January.
63 years.
63 years.
Mrs. Rooker, if I may ask, it's not polite to ask a lady her age.
Yeah.
Could I ask when you were born?
Oh, yes. I was born in Woodward in December the 8th, 1901.
In Woodward?
Woodward.
So you're a native?
Yes,
she's an
I'm an Oklahomian, and I'm proud of it.
Good.
I love Oklahoma.
We all do. Mm-hmm. Well, you all have any experiences before the war that's interesting?
Well,
I fell through a bridge once. Pretty good size of it, too.
Where at?
Out of west of Dover.
Yeah. When did you... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I thought, well, I could get across the bridge. They had attempted to kind of mark it, but hadn't done very much of a job of it. And I had 3 horses. In fact, I was leading a mare that had a little colt and driving a team to a buggy. It broke that buggy into splinters. And all I got was, I think, a little cut on my knuckle here or something like that.
This was near Dover?
That's west of Dover.
Dover, Oklahoma?
Oklahoma, yeah. And I had to get that colt out. And getting the mother out was a lot more work than getting the colt out. She got kind of scared. And I had to go get a boy an axe from a neighbor and chop a little tree off that had fallen over the creek. The creek was up about, 3/4 bank full. So I guess I was pretty lucky that I didn't get hurt in that.
When did you first come to Oklahoma?
1898.
1898.
Yes, sir.
Did you settle in Dover?
Kingfisher.
Kingfisher.
Yes.
Oh.
And my younger brother that disappeared very mysteriously last January. He was born in Kingfisher, July the 11th, 1898.
Do you remember Statehood Day?
Pardon?
Do you remember Statehood Day?
Oh, yes,
In
quite
Kingfisher?
well.
What'd you
Quite
do?
well.
What'd you do Statehood Day?
Not too much.
Do you have a big celebration in Kingfisher? Or?
No, not a whole lot. I don't know how much they celebrate it. Youngsters don't get it on a lot of the celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Oklahoma City stole the capital from Guthrie.
Moved it at night, didn't
Moved
it?
it at night, yeah. And they voted on it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the elections were Oklahoma City's favor, naturally. And even then, when they were having trouble, so they just took the seal and got the buggy and drove to Oklahoma City with it.
Mm-hmm.
Huckett's Hotel was the state capital for a month or so.
Now, were you in
2 or 3
Kingfisher?
months.
Were you in Kingfisher?
I
with
was
this
Dover
going
at
on?
that time.
In Dover.
I was Dover from the time I was about 3 years old.
What did your folks do in Kingfisher when you first moved there?
Whatever he could do.
What, they farmers?
He
Or?
worked on sections. Normally we were farmers.
Yeah.
We moved to the farm when we could get it.
So you don't remember much about Statehood Day? There wasn't really any big celebrations going on?
Oh, I think there were quite a number of celebrations. But
What, dances or?
Oh, yes. There were things of that kind. But I didn't figure much on that because I would have been too old at that
We
time.
wasn't worrying about Paul was worried about what was happening in them days.
Yeah. Mr. Rooker, when did you first come to Oklahoma?
Oh, we came in the very last of 1800, last month of 1800.
December of
I
1899?
was 4 years old.
You mean 1900?
Well, no, the latter part of 1800. It would be,
The
wouldn't
very
it?
last 18
Very last of 1800. I was
18
4 years old, see, and
So it was 1899 you came?
yeah,
Yep.
that's the year we came.
Where'd you move to?
We landed, come in on the train, landed up here at McLoud, and my dad had come ahead of us sometime, I don't know how many years, a year or two, and had bought a farm 4 miles south of McLoud over here, and McLoud, and we had it rented, and the renter met us. There wasn't no such thing as a automobile or nothing. He met us in a wagon. And there was 5 of us little boys, a little less than 7 years difference in 5 boys. And we come down that road out of McLoud. We'd get out of the wagon and outrun the team up and down the road. Some of them was older than I. I was 4. I don't know whether I was doing much of the running or not, but I know we'd been on that train, you know. And so we landed there, and then the corner of my place is just 3/4 of a mile from the corner of the place where my dad landed 82 years ago. So I haven't got a mile away from home in 82 years.
That's right. What was the train trip like? Do you remember the train?
Oh
Coming
yeah,
from
I
Georgia?
remember crossing the Mississippi River, and there's an old steamboat that whistled. I can still hear it. That first steam whistle I ever heard, and I remember it so well. And then, I remember several occasions along the way. And then, since we've been here, though, I've seen Dale, this little city down here, underwater 3 times in my lifetime when it got in the buildings. And in 1908 was the biggest one. And then and one time since then, I believe in 32, dam busted at Oklahoma City and just edged that railroad up. It looked like a fence. It crossed, I just stood up like this.
That's on the Canadian River.
On the North Canadian River. And so and then in 1932, my dad lived just a mile over here on the hill overlooking the Dale Bottom, and my neighbor, folks who was living with my dad, my brother-in-law, and he called over here. We was living here. That's been years ago, and said that Mr. Johnson was in trouble down there. He was hollering for help. So I had a couple old mules, and I got on them and took them over there, and we'd go and bring his kids out, muleback, up to my dad's up on the hill, and we kept that up until the last trip out. Why, my brother-in-law fell off of his mule as we were climbing the bank, and it was slick. And so it was coming out, though, Mr. Johnson held on to the mule tail of one mule, and Quentin, my brother-in-law, held on to the other. And
the children were on
the
mother, wife.
Well, the wife was riding one mule, me the other, and then Mr. Johnson was holding on the tail of one mule to help us get through that water, you know.
It's in the Canadian River there?
It was, Deer Creek was on he got up that morning and said he looked up across that bottom towards Dale. He said he seen a roll of water coming about waist high. He said it looked like, and he had a levee built around his house, and he said when that water got to that levee, why, it just went over and under his house. He had 7 bales of cotton stacked behind the barn. They was raiding cotton them days, and that cotton just started floating for the river, going into the North Canadian River. And he had some pigs in the pen, and he got scared. He couldn't do nothing. He got his family and got up in the barn. And so I kicked the boards off of the pig pen, let his hogs out, and let the fences down, let his horses out of the lot. And so we come out of there.
He found his hogs way down the
river. He found the hogs. They'd swum down to Valley Grove, about 2 miles or more down, and got out. And they
lost their chickens. They drowned.
Yeah, they was floating in the house.
Mr. Rooker, do you remember Statehood Day?
Well, I remember it, but just barely. I don't know. We was out here. We probably went squirrel hunting or rabbit hunting or something that day. We done a lot of hunting them days. There was a lot of game, squirrels and rabbits. You'd shoot at one rabbit and kill 2, maybe. You wouldn't see but one. It was thick.
Mrs. Rooker, what did you do on Statehood Day? Do you remember?
What did I do when?
On Statehood Day?
Statehood Day.
November 16th, 1907?
You mean Armistice Day?
No, Statehood.
Statehood Day.
When we became a state.
We were living, I was 6 years old. That was in 1907, wasn't it? And I was 6 years old that day. Not at that time, and I don't remember much about it. Only the folks talking about it. You know, everyone was excited about it and happy over it. But it didn't. Me being just 6 years old, I didn't amount to much to me.
You were still in the Woodward?
No, we were living in Shawnee then.
Shawnee.
We moved to Shawnee just before I was 6, and in 1907. In the statehood time.
I just talked to Kitty Sturdivant. Do you know her?
Who?
Kitty Sturdivant from Shawnee.
No, I don't remember.
She was one of the first women lawyers in Oklahoma. She was from Shawnee.
Oh, she was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you know, we knew quite a few people in Shawnee, and Daddy built a home there, a little northeast of Shawnee, on a 10-acre tract. And G.P. Carr had just come from Tennessee, and he was a contractor, and he built our house was the first home that he built. He built a barn and a house too, and it. Strange thing that every house that I've lived in either has burned down or a tornado has struck it. None of them's there, excepting this one.
Yeah. Do you remember? Did you know Mark Good?
Mark Good, yeah.
He was the Indian agent in Shawnee.
Mark Good. Mark Good was a lawyer.
Oh, he was a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you remember about him? What do you remember about him?
Well, I don't remember too much about him. I remember more, since I married. He was my sister-in-law's lawyer for several years after she lost her husband for about 20 years. And so, but I just know he was a popular barrister.
What was your sister-in-law's name?
Mark Good's sister.
No, your sister-in-law's name.
She was Roy's brother Johnny's wife. Audrey, her name was Audrey Rooker. She was Audrey Heath before she married, and they had, their sons are farming right here yet. And she's been dead. She died 10 years ago of cancer.
That's their cattle out there, her boys, and I've got 3 little places, and they farm them all. I kind of turned them over to my nephews.
Mm-hmm. What was your maiden name?
Jerboe, Cleta Jerboe. Jerboe.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Gray, how'd you come to Oklahoma?
Came to Rock Island.
Rock Island.
That's where we came.
The Rock.
When did you all... Do you remember the Spanish-American War?
Who?
The Spanish-American War?
No, but I remember hearing about it.
My daddy was lived during that time.
My brother wasn't joining him at 9
He
years
didn't have to
old.
go. I think he was only about 17, and he didn't have to go to Spanish-American.
He got to join later.
But he and his father and 2 brothers came here in the early days, and they were in the run. And he was 11 years old, and it was always so exciting to him to be in the run. And they won or staked a claim on 160 acres, what's used to be known as Hog Creek, between here and Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. And then Uncle Will, he ran separately. He was old enough to run separately, and he got 160 over here by Newalla. And they're pioneer people.
Did they tell you about the run, what it was like in the run?
Oh, yes. See, it was just hilarious.
What did they say about it?
Oh, it was so much. Well, there were so many people lined up for the run, and I think they were in a spring wagon. And but Uncle Will was a horseback, and he ran, and his future wife ran too, and she was a widow with 2 children, and she got a place right across from him, or joining him, I guess it would, for the roads went in, and so they met then and then married. I don't know how long afterwards that they married, but it was really exciting. Said, oh, that was something awful, and people were so excited, and they were all lined up and couldn't make the run until they shot off a gun, on the morning that they did that, and then everybody just went wild, to stake their claims, and it looks like I think some of them did stake, on 2 or 3 different stakes on your claim that you claimed. I don't know how they worked out, but it was really wonderful. Mm-hmm. And some of them got land that was more valuable later on, than others did.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Wheeler, he came to this country and staked a claim just a mile west of here and a half mile north, that 160. Well, they've hit oil on that just lately. He said that he rode a horse in there running, and he said he's chasing a deer. They run them ahead as they run, And he said he chased a deer in there, and it was about sundown, and so he stayed all night, and then he looked the place over and staked it. And he broke this country out with oxen. I've seen him in 80 years ago, I guess. I was about 6 years old, just starting school, and we'd come back through and where he was breaking with these oxen. And so he broke this land out. He had a big old plow that was 20 odd inches wide, and they hit a stump, they just plow him under. And he's a little bitty short man, and he'd get up there on them big turfs, they'd turn out and shake that plow,
Very sod plow?
Yeah, big, it's made purpose to break land with,
And this place is right over here?
Nice.
Yeah, it's just, see, there's a well of pumping right up here in this section. And so, I don't know, I talked to the man that's got the lease on the place where they got a good well. It had too much gas to push the oil out, and so they was cutting down on the putting in valves to shut it off. And so I don't know just how they come in there and dug that well in 8 days, moved out and was gone. In 8 days they hit the oil. And I was talking to the man that owned the lease, and he said, I said something about if she gets 4 wells, I told her, I said, if you get 4 wells, I said, I'm going to divorce my wife and marry you.
And she informed him that she wasn't about to get married. She wasn't interested at all.
Well,
but we've known her since she was 11. I have since she's 11. Roy, she was smaller than that when he first.
Yeah.
You said this is Mr. Wheeler's place?
Yeah, that's the Wheeler place. And her name's Paige. She married a Page. And tractor turned over on him and killed him right over there on the roadway just north of this restaurant over here.
Was that Mr. Page or Mr. Wheeler?
Mr. Page,
Yeah.
the daughter's husband. See, she got the place. There was just 2 girls, and so she owns the land.
Is Mr. Wheeler deceased now?
Oh yeah, he'd be 100 and I don't know, some odd years old now.
When did you join the Army? What was your reaction?
Kingfisher, Oklahoma.
Kingfisher, Oklahoma. What did you join?
I joined right here at Shawnee. It passed at Washington at 8 o'clock in the morning, the first draft, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, go putting the names in the local paper here. And before sundown that evening, I was going down the street in McLoud, and somebody hollered and said, I see your name in the paper, where you going? So that's how quick they got me.
What date was that? Do you remember?
Well, my brother and I was farming cotton. That's all we had. And sometime in the spring, we tied our team up and went down Dale and registered for the draft. And so then in the fall, we went down there to sign up for it. And my brother kind of stood back. He was older than me, and I said, "Oh, let me sign that thing." And so I signed it, and the first call got me in. So he didn't go for quite some time, but 4 of us, 5 boys, was in World War I.
Well, you all 5 would have been if Dewey had.
Yeah, Dewey had a
surgery.
appendicitis operation, and it ruptured, and he didn't fix it too quick. Then he got it.
Mr. Gray, were you drafted? Did you enlist, or?
How would I? About 50-50. I wouldn't have been in the. Well, let's see. We didn't. Any of us go in that first 5%. You didn't let us any of the big bugs. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that everybody that was there in that first 5% were pulled in because they had military experience and maybe in the National
Well,
Guard.
they
or
were
something.
just one or
Yeah.
two at this.
We had,
Yeah.
remember our company clerk there, and he later got, I think, went to office training school.
Yeah.
I don't remember what his name was now. I'm pretty good on names too. But he was a large fellow. He was a real nice fellow.
Mhm.
But I would see up at Kingfisher County, I was head of sale working as State Bank. And I would see this chairman of the board every day. He'd say, well, you ready to go? I say, yeah, just ready as I'll ever be. And he said, well, fixed up so you go with Arthur. Arthur would have been, I think he would have been the first 5%. His name was the third name drawn in Washington as his number. And, but he didn't have to go because he was employed. He did go in the first 15%, I believe, or 20. And so he kept telling me, fixed up so I could go with my brother. Well, I didn't care with one brother or not particular. But anyway, on Saturday, before we were to report on Tuesday, I got notice to appear for the draft. And I worked in the Hennessy State Bank on Monday because anybody that knows anything about a bank knows Monday's the big day, see? And then I left and went home that evening and got what little bit together that I was going to take, reported Kingfisher the next day after I worked all day in Hennessy. And so I really went pretty much as a volunteer, but that was the draft driver, quite naturally. And when we got to, by the way, I was the lieutenant. We had a captain there, and he'd had some military experience. He was the biggest rat in the army. I think I'd have killed him if he'd stayed around much longer. I disliked him so. Oh, Funkhauser, you remember Funkhauser? He was back in Oklahoma City after I was there.
So you were a lieutenant when you first
I
went
was lieutenant to take the boys down. But
He just appointed lieutenant.
Oh, okay.
he appointed lieutenant to take the group down, and he was the captain. And gosh, everybody hated him. They all wanted to talk to me.
So did you go from?
We went from Kingfisher down to San Antonio. Gosh, an all-day trip, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Boy, I guess
You went
all
to
night,
San Antonio also?
Huh?
You went to San Antonio also?
Yeah. When we got there, there was just hardly anybody there, and maybe there'd be one or two, and they'd.
I guess we had the only barracks in that block, didn't we?
Well, our company, you know.
Right. Yeah. I think so.
Did you come through Oklahoma City? Did you pass
I
through
didn't
Oklahoma
come to
City?
Oklahoma City. I just went direct to Kingfisher.
I got on the train at Santa Fe train down here the 17th day of September, and that's when we left.
That's when I left too.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, down here at
So
Shawnee?
we got in
Johnny, yeah,
We got in there about the same time, I think, about the 19th.
probably
I think.
did.
What company were you in then? Were you both in the same company?
Yeah.
What company was it?
315th Trench Mortar.
There was just the one company, 200 and some odd men, wasn't there? Or how many was it?
About less than 200.
Was it?
It
Well,
was a big
anyway,
company.
in
we
our
were
company, we
attached to 343rd.
It was
Artillery.
trench warfare. They fixed us for trench warfare. And so we had these old beds and barrels that you set up in trenches, and they'd shoot about a mile, and you could set them up, and we went on practice range, and you could see them. They'd come out and go over a hill and come down, and then they had two different fuses, instantaneous fuse and a delayed fuse. One of them was for cutting barbed wire entanglement, and the other was for blowing out underground stuff. And that was what they trained us for. Well, you know, time we got trained and got ready to go, well, they got them out of them trenches and got them to moving, and so we just chased them clean into Germany, followed them all the way, and so that was the way.
We went into Germany unarmed too.
Yeah.
Officers had sidearms.
Right. Were you at Fort Sam Houston then, in San Antonio?
Yeah.
No.
Wasn't that
Camp
Fort Sam?
Travis. Camp Travis.
Travis.
Ain't that Fort Sam Houston?
We were
right there, too?
adjacent to
Yeah,
Sam Houston.
How long was your basic training?
About 8 or 9 months.
What do you think of basic?
It was pretty rough.
Oh, Lord.
What was an average day like in basic?
I said,
What was your average day like in basic at Camp
well,
Travis?
we was up before by good daylight, if it was that. And you worked till about 5 to 5:30, and you had dinner. And of course you showered and went to bed and slept if you could.
What, did you have calisthenics in the morning first?
Oh
or
yes,
what?
yeah.
How long was it between reveille and the time you ate breakfast? How long was that?
Ooh, I expect an hour. Pretty. That'd be good.
And what kind of training did you have? Just
I was that.
what kind of training did you have?
Well, we had infantry drill, and of course we had a mortar drill, and we had
Here's some pictures that I
Marching.
take. Now, this was our barracks right there.
Yeah.
And this men are passing. And here's, they put up bales of hay. And we was in training, we had bayonets, we'd run them through them bales of
that. Of course,
hay.
that's infantry drill.
Yeah, well,
But
we
had
trained
that.
for anything.
Yeah, we had infantry drill too.
Yeah. And that's just, there's the way now this is the sunken garden in San Antone. You see up here.
Breckenridge Park.
Breckenridge Park, yeah.
Yeah. And this is the way we eat. And here we went on and here we went on now I taken these pictures myself or had my camera. And there's where we was wearing gas masks. We went on a hike that day and hiked several miles with gas masks on to see if we. That's my wife, is a girl, and here's best friend I ever had, I guess, right there, old Bob Miller.
He's a cook.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd feed me. And, he's there. And
Oh, Bob started to
here, look here. Here we lined up before daylight to get something to eat.
Breckenridge Park again.
Yeah, now that's me, and these other three's gone now. Us three left here the same day. My folks give a party for us, and here's where they sent a little Englishman over here. And that's me and somebody with the boxing gloves on. I didn't have no more sense than to put them on.
Got on pretty good.
Yeah, that's old Dan. Frank and I, we left here together. I said, we rode him to death. He's been dead for years.
Oh, I'm probably blowing you up here, but I wanted you to have some pine.
Oh, well, thank you.
Is this whatever I?
Can you sit down?
That's Bill.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's my oldest boy there.
Say, that's a good picture, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good picture.
He's an aviator.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made 31 missions and them shooting at him, and then he,
Over Germany?
yeah, he bombed Berlin proper 5 times, I believe, and then he flew 25 and a half years for Pan American Airlines. So he's been a lot of miles, that boy. And my other son, he was, the other son, he stayed in 22 years and come out lieutenant colonel.
Do you like
$1,500 a month.
sugar in your coffee?
I'll put
Do you like cream or sugar in your coffee?
No, I tell you, I'll take a spoon.
I said we could put like,
Yeah, that's a good
if
idea.
you can I'll hold it up if you can reach underneath that and
Yeah.
pull that around.
Got 'em.
Is this the Better Freight 75 artillery piece?
Yeah, that's,
A little about our guns. There were three sizes of those mortars. One had a 9-pound bomb. We had seen them and trained with them a little bit. Then we got a 52-pound bomb. And one man would carry a bomb. 4 men would carry the tripod. 2 men would carry a barrel.
yeah.
And that darn barrel was heavy, too.
Well, and carrying them over rough roads and them, with that
Oh,
old
boy.
core on
It-
one.
It was something.
Yeah.
But I was going to say there's 11 pounds of TNT in one of those 52-pound bombs. So you
we
get a
went
pretty-
went to church and got acquainted, and they took us on a picnic, some of them girls.
get a pretty good explosion of those.
I think some of these don't care much about. I think this is my wife, where she went to school with her. Of course, it brings back a lot of memories to me. It don't mean nothing to anybody else. But now here's some pictures. My wife was on the stage as a girl a little while, and here she is. She's singing a song, "I Want a Man," and this is her and her brother and another little brother. They dressed him up like a rooster. My kids got a hold. This is my wife, and that was.
Good pictures.
Yeah, it's been through the mill. I raised 4 kids here, and they all tore it all to pieces. But
Leonard, do you like cream in your coffee?
No, thank you.
You
I
want
I
sugar?
think
It's all right. I need a spoon to stir.
Do you like cream or?
No, ma'am. That is fine. Thank you.
and my wife and their teacher and her mother. I believe that's about good. Here's where I made harvest with that's where the old header barges.
Yeah,
They headed it, you know. You used to shock it. And that was my boss. And these old girls on 4th of July went to town and bought some firecrackers, and that one slipped one in my pocket, set it on fire, and she like blowed me up. But you ought to seen her fight fire. Yeah, that's, we made a trip up to
I need
right
to
Lookout Mountain.
I need a fork.
Oh, it did not give you before.
With the Alamo.
Yeah.
I was going to tell him what about when we were on target practice out there with the mortars. And
Sorry, I
think that's it.
thought I put it on the.
thank you.
Now this was one that where we was standing. That we all just bulleted anywhere we could find a place.
Pie in the microwave.
Now that was racehorse stalls where we were stationed in there.
Is this in San Antonio?
No, that was in.
Half a minute.
I
Fine.
like some pie.
Oh, yeah, the postcard.
Pie of any kind. He likes where we put it in the oven.
I cooked one
We got this, but it was.
night before last, I guess.
You did.
So you were in basic for how many weeks?
How's that?
You were in basic how many weeks in San
Basic
Antonio?
training.
Oh, basic training. Gosh, we were there 6 or 8 months, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All told. Fella gets my number all the time.
Huh?
Fella gets my
That was
number
the one
all
I
the
carried
time.
in my pocket all over.
He's got got so he just hangs up. He don't.
That was the
That
girl I
little
left
cute
behind.
son.
I wouldn't say I'm sorry.
Is your wife? That's alive.
Sometimes
But he
that
knows.
scares me when they
When
call
I
and
ask
don't
him why
say
he knows
anything.
he's got the wrong number, he just hang up. I start telling you, we
When I make
on this mortar gun, if you put that bomb in there upside down,
I believe I could get a divorce over the
Oh.
ground. She don't look like that now. That was my wife. This
time
is
takes its toll.
that was taken last year on our 62nd in married Kingfisher.
You got the shell and upside down. What happened?
well, if it had gone down, why, it would just blown us all to pieces, you know, for probably several yards
That's
around there.
High hot?
Mhm.
Well, I put it in the microwave, you know, and that kind of ruins the crust. It makes the crust a little bit soggy, but Roy likes it hot, and I know you all would like it hot.
Roy,
That's a 1-pounder. That's what they shot at airplanes in World War One. No boy took a pocket knife. You can't see probably in the dark there.
Private
What they
First
use
Class
now.
Roy R. Rooker, 315th Trench Mortar Battery, American Expeditionary Force, France.
Yeah, he done that with a pocket knife.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the difference between the artillery and the trench mortar?
Well, we was attached to
we were
them,
attached to them
but
because we had to work. We worked between the infantry and the artillery, and if we ever got in, why you just come out clean, or else you don't come out. And so I think maybe we were pretty lucky after all.
yeah, we were. We lucky.
I told people I didn't see a dead man while I was in the army, knowing.
I
saw
did.
pieces of
I was
them.
telling you, you know
I saw
about.
pieces of them.
I saw one that it was burying them. We got there just after they quit fighting. They sent us on up, and they hadn't picked them up off of the ground. And somebody had found them. They took all the buttons for souvenirs and everything.
Where was this?
That was at Stenay, France, right where they quit fighting. And so we, the way they buried him, they just took his overcoat, and spread out over him. And then one old boy picked his little old cap up, he's laying there, and said, "Oh boy, when you wake up, you'll find your cap right here at your feet." He tossed it over.
After basic, how long was it? When did you go overseas?
Went overseas about the 1st of July.
And
We spent the 4th of July at Halifax, Nova Scotia.
oh, so you went by train from?
My train up to New York
Anyway.
from, and my gosh, you went by way of Hammond, Louisiana.
Louisiana to New York? That's
Yeah,
kind of out of the way.
From San Antonio. We just started, we didn't have to go whichever way you could get
Yeah,
back.
right.
And we'd sit for hours in places without moving.
Did you go to what fort in New York did you go to? Or did you go to a
We
fort?
went to Camp Mills, Long Island. It was a new camp, real nice. It was clean and
Where you took off?
a lot better than there was one up in New Jersey.
Fort
I
Devens? Was that Fort Devens?
No, I'm not thinking of
No,
that.
that's Massachusetts, I think.
There's another one. This one up there was up
Fort
not
Dix?
very far.
Fort Dix?
It's not Dix either. I think it might have been for
Yeah.
World
Then
War
did you go
One.
by boat up to Nova Scotia?
Yeah, we went from New York.
And then,
And we were up there for 2 days, and we came so near running on the rocks that we ran over fish nets set up in the water. Boy, that's a 900-foot boat. That's getting pretty close. And one of our convoy did run on the rocks, and they had to unload it because it was about to break it too.
What was the name of the boat that you were on? Do you remember?
Demosthenes.
Were you on the same boat, Mr. Rooker?
Yes, sir.
We went from France every bit of the way. We was together till we got back to Arkansas and was discharged.
Yeah.
You landed at
Even
Bordeaux
came back
when you
came back
when
to
you landed
Shawnee
in
on
London,
the
you landed
same
at Liverpool.
Yeah.
What boat did you go over to France on? What was the name of the boat?
Demosthenes.
Same boat?
Yeah, it was Australian freighter converted into a, and they had the old swinging, not swinging hammocks, but yeah, we they did have swinging hammocks.
I think
didn't
so, but
Yeah.
some of us slept under benches and one thing another down in there.
Boy, that swinging gets kind of old, I'll tell you.
Tell him about your food on the
Me too. I guess it was probably rocks, but the bones looked that big.
Somebody said our cook said there's funniest looking cow bones. You know, they're shooting horses down over there, and they load those boats up with food for the soldiers moving them. So I
We had
don't
a lot
know.
of goat meat. Now, goat meat is not
Well, you
smashed
said the
all
beef
young,
is
but they get strong off quick.
Mm.
But we take that, and maybe we'll tell a little of that, you know, because you chew it for an hour.
Spoiled almost.
And we throw it through the porthole. You could open this old style boat, you could open the porthole, and we'd open the porthole and throw the darn bones out. The fish would sure go after.
How long did the trip take from Nova Scotia to France?
We about 16 days.
That's 16 days
was
from New
from the
York.
time. Yeah.
How many ships in the convoy?
Oh, I don't know.
Not
That-
convoy,
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, I know. We had a submarine come up on our left and hit the ship on our left, crippled it, and then there was a little ship,
Destroyer?
kind of like destroyer, worked just like a good hunting dog out ahead of us. Well, that thing come back between our ship and the ship that was hit. And boy, it was throwing smoke. That was the biggest show I seen on
I've
there.
never seen one like it. I've never seen one like it since.
No, you don't. Yeah, we.
And we stayed at least a bunch of our company stayed to unload the boat there at Liverpool, and that boat sank in the dock.
Yeah, that's what they
It
done.
sank
They got
in
it
the
to the dock, kept pumps running on it till they got it to the dock.
But then when they took the pumps off of it, it just sank. Of course, couldn't sink but about,
How come it sank?
well, because it was
It's been
a
hit.
hole in it.
Oh, that's what it was
This,
stripping.
That's where.
This was a dud in that is it didn't explode, but it ripped a big hole in it. And when they ran the pumps, it was all right. But took the pumps off, it sank.
The night we got off the
Oh boy, do I
going
remember!
through Liverpool, England. Woo! Boy,
Three
it was-
off miles
yeah.
was terrible.
Captain Nolly, what was the name of the station we walked to that night? Do you remember?
What is that? I don't remember. Naughty Ash.
I believe that's right.
Camp Naughty Ash.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, at first we'd go over and sit down on the curb. It didn't make a difference where you sit down in it. You know, the weather was drowned rain.
Yeah, it was raining right down.
And oh, a terrible rain.
Yeah.
So after a while, when they'd blow and stop for rest, we just drop a pack down and just drop out on it.
Yeah.
When was this? What time of year?
That's in July,
17 or 18?
about 15th July.
Okay, 1917?
Oh, 1918.
1918.
Yeah. And, anyway, we got back on the next day and went on down to catch the boat across the English Channel. And across that English Channel worse the night before.
Yeah, I got
You
sick
had to
of-
step on deck to stay alive.
I got sick of going across that English
Yeah.
Channel.
Well, you get sick seeing the other people sick. Gosh, I've been
Then the next
sick.
morning, we didn't have nothing but hardtack, little old piece of hardtack about so big. We had a little bitty captain.
Jason Tay.
And old Earl, what was his name that drove the team? Earl, somebody. He weighed about 240 pounds. And he come by, and the captain was issuing the hardtack out, and so he handed it to old Earl, and he looked at it, and then he looked down at that little captain, and then he looked down at that, and then he just walked off.
What was the hardtack made of? What was it?
I don't know. Do you know what hardtack's made of?
No, it's kind of a biscuit, but it's, boy, it's
Hard.
your teeth out.
It wouldn't mold.
To keep you alive, yeah.
Hard to dry.
How long did you spend in England, in Liverpool?
We went to Liverpool, but overnight, that's a part of the night. We were at this camp in about 2 or 3 hours.
We got in there about 2
But we
o'clock
did
in the
get-
morning and left at daylight, didn't
Yeah,
we?
we did get to take a bath and put on dry
I
clothes.
forgot. It
And
was
most
wet.
everybody, you'd be surprised, most everybody had dry clothes. And we had the little monkey heater, and you could put your uniform out there, and even though they were heavy wool uniforms, they dried out surprisingly well.
What's a monkey heater?
Monkey heater's just a little cone-shaped piece of steel, and they put coal in them and set them on another piece of metal, or else concrete, and to get that going good, of course, they've got pipe right up to the top, you know.
Yeah,
And boy, that'd get hotter in there. We got warmed up, and our clothes fairly well dry.
Now, in Liverpool, this camp that you were at, did you have barracks, tents, or what did you...
We were in tents,
yeah.
but they were, that's why I say that's why these monkey eaters, and they were pretty good.
So then you took off for France from Liverpool?
We went down to the Channel, and then we got on a boat there the next time. We were pretty all day getting to the Channel. And we never were in. We were 6 miles out of London, weren't we? Just about.
I guess so.
Yeah, what
I
town?
flew over London. That's the nearest I came to see.
What town did you leave from in England going across the Channel?
Winchester.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long did it take to cross the Channel?
I don't know. I went to sleep
Well,
though
we
before we
about
got
3 or
across.
4 hours.
I
And
guess
it's
so.
only about 100 miles.
And where'd you land?
Lahore,
Saint Nazaire,
Lahore, France.
Lahore.
Lahore, France.
Yeah.
And they
That's
was
what they say, Nazaire.
there was cotton there that was shipped from McLoud, Oklahoma, and we tore the tags off of it and kept the tags. Don't you remember me?
Yeah, you still had the tag.
I had the tag when I got home, I think. And a lot of people found tags from cotton that was raised in Oklahoma and shipped over there, and they said his brother-in-law bought that cotton, he said.
That night that they landed in Liverpool, wasn't it Liverpool? They had hobnail shoes on, and the
Walking on that.
that they had to walk on, and it raining right down.
And it's just dark, and people stick their heads out of windows. We could hear them and holler at us as we walked through Liverpool, England, on the way to Camp Naughty Ash.
Dark as could be, you know, everything was dark.
So we
It
went
took us just about an hour a mile. It's 3.5, and we were pretty near midnight before we started out there. Now you can imagine that. Then get up the next morning by daylight, and hike back in, but put in right. So, and we didn't have any coffee. Never gave us any coffee. We had to pay, chase and pay.
Leonard and I, we was in the bunch that I started to tell something and I forgot just what I started to say. Let's see.
Did you have breakfast?
Oh,
Did
we
you
went
get
into
breakfast
town
later on?
the night
No,
of
you
July.
didn't
You
break.
had awful sorry food, didn't you, in World
Yeah.
War I?
Well, we after we got to camp with our own cooks, we got pretty good meals.
What I started to tell Leonard was that the night we went into town when they lit the lights for the first time in 4 years and so many months that they hadn't seen a street light in that whole country. They just didn't light them. There's somebody.
The one time I saw Goose Robinson get drunk. He come and they killed that Townsend.
Yeah.
Who's Goose Robinson?
Goose Robinson was the only fellow I knew before I went in. And he
We
lived,
went to your town.
yeah, he lived about halfway between Dover and Kingfisher, and I had to go by his house. When I went to Kingfisher and I knew Goose, I'd see him in different places.
Would you all like some more coffee?
And
got
I
my
got him his first date with his gal he married.
I'll just bring the pot in here and pour it.
And anyhow, he was an awfully nice fellow. He's about 6'1" and weighed about 180
He could
pounds.
squawk just like a goose.
And
That's where he got his name.
he was, he got his thing imitating the goose, you know. But I was going to say, when that fellow got drunk, he was mean. He was like an Indian. And
Jiggle around and
he came in pretty late to dawn. You want to know where Betty Townsend was?
just leave
And
that in there.
Betty danced him, you know. Of course, all the time Bill knew that was,
You want a little more coffee?
he knew there was Betty Townsend was dancing him. He said, "Where's Betty Townsend?"
Good, that's
Betty said, "Just went by on a bicycle." Pretty soon, he said, "I don't know where he is, and I'm gonna get mad." And he picked up a hobnail shoe. There was a bunch of men, and everybody had to carry an extra pair of hobnail shoes. And he threw that shoe across the floor, and he could throw like a bullet. And he hit that guy right above the eye. And he cut his eye bad enough that they had to take him and find the medics. We didn't have any right there. We just had a medical detachment, you know, a couple of so-called medics. One was a corporal, another sergeant. Probably knew how to sew up a wound or something like that. But they had to get him up and close that darn, keep that blood from coming out of that boy's eye. And if they hit the eye, it was a show up the eye out. They just cut a big gash above that. Well, they sewed that up and they did a pretty smooth job. And we buried old Benny on, when he died on Christmas Day 2 years ago, last Christmas. 3 years this Christmas. And he was at my 80th anniversary, remember?
Yeah.
And Hogan was, we buried him. And
They was.
Shaw
How
would
many
have
was
been
there at your 80th? There was 4 of us, wasn't there?
yeah, three of you. And
Yeah.
Shaw would have been there, except he was staying home with a sick brother that died a week
No,
later.
there's 4 of us. There's Benny and you and me and
Well, yeah, that's right.
there
There were 3 besides me. Yeah.
besides you.
And I was going to say, we buried Hogan in 30 days after. I thought Hogan was acting awfully strange
Well-
that day. Go around, you know, look like you're looking at the ceiling all the time.
Well,
But
you know,
his wife's a sweet somebody. Is with her.
they claim there's only 2% of the World War I's living now. And you know, in the paper in there, Sunday's paper, there's a guy that come to our meeting. He was president down there, and he remembers the name. And so he's in the paper. He died the first year he'd come. He moved from Texas up here and moved.
Methodist minister. Corley.
Yeah, Corley.
Troy Corley.
Yeah, and his first year he come.
I wrote him a letter that for us.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, he wanted. It was going to have his name put on that monument.
Yeah, but does this show where it belonged, what it belonged to in the army?
He just moved from Texas up here, I think, and he went back down there. He died down there, I believe, but they sent him here to bury him, I believe, in Shawnee.
Well, maybe I'll get it anyway because the folks will get it.
Yeah.
Well,
He said he had 3 boys, I think, and they was going to have his name put on the monument. They'd all served time in the army.
I guess the check cleared my bank balances, my bank book balances. But you know, I guess I won't talk. I won't make the statement I was going to make. But.
Well, go ahead. Maybe I owe you some. I don't know how.
No, I don't think you do, but let me tell you. If I'd listened to old Joe, there wouldn't be any money left there.
Did you have a little bit left? Did you get
yes, I have $300 left.
Or did you get...
But that's not our money.
No. Did you get any of it for your night
I got
rooming?
$20-some.
For your room, huh?
Yeah, that's paid. In other words, I had set them enough that only cost the association $20-some, and I wouldn't even take anything really. Well, I've got to start to tell this. I'll have to tell it anyway. Now, you just forget I told it. Joe called me up the other day. That's since last year.
Yeah.
We buried him in September.
Yeah, there's only...
He's out up here at Choctaw. Good old boy, too.
The one that died was from Choctaw?
Yeah.
Was his now his wife's name was Kusler, and my grandmother, knew her for years when they before statehood.
But she's quite a character too, and that Vicky is somebody. She's a maiden lady, you know. Vicky's the daughter.
Oh.
But she kind of let the cat out of the bag. I said I'd been in Oklahoma City 63 years. This boss says, gee, that's longer than I've been here. So
grandmother knew them, and she was kind of a midwife. She went to they didn't have any doctors, and so she just had a big family of her own, and she was awfully good, just a born nurse.
Well, a lady named Dickman, a German lady, brought all of us kids into this world, but my younger brother.
Well,
And when you see Miss Dickman coming, the older kids would know, well, there's something going to happen now. Here comes Miss Dickman.
Well, when we came to this country, there's an old family doctor up here at McLoud, and he brought all the Rooker, us 5 boys raised our families in 5 miles of McLoud and Dale. And so this old doctor brought 4 for us, 7 for another brother, and 4 for another brother, and 2 for another brother, I believe.
What was his name?
Dr. Kaler. And he was here, boy, he'd go any time, night or day, and...
Just like a father to us. We could call up and at least a little thing happened.
Yeah,
call up and talk to Dr. Kaler about it. He did advise us.
He said our family was just the salt of the earth, he said.
He charged $2 for an office call. Imagine it now. And then he did go up to 3 before he died. But he died up in his 90s.
One of the last calls I made to my good friend Elmer Music, that used to be a doctor in Oklahoma City, died several years ago. It was on Saturday morning. He's one of the few doctors that still worked on Saturday that long ago. And I sat around there for about 2 hours before I got to see him. That was unusual because he was generally pretty prompt, especially if you had an appointment for a certain time. But anyway, I was the last patient he saw. He said, last patient he saw. He said, Leonard, he said, I'm getting tired of this thing. And he said, you're the 15th person I've seen this morning. I said, that's too much work. He said, I'm just going to quit it. You know, I think that man was dead. Boy, he's dead in probably a year after that, anyway. But anyhow, he charged me $4 for that call, and he didn't know much about my case, so he said, I'd send you to somebody, but he said, there isn't any doctors here.
That he'd recommend.
Yes, and he said, there just isn't anybody. He said, there's one darn old crook, 'cause you know what I'm talking about, and I did immediately. And he said, I've got some pretty good samples here. He gave me 4 of those big black suppositories. I was having some rectal trouble. One of the few times I've had. Yeah. But, you know, those times they cost about $1.50 a piece themselves. And he gave me 4 of those and only charged me $4. So I came out pretty good on that call. Now my doctor charges $27 an office call.
Yeah, I called up here. I had wax in my ears, and I called up here to the little doctor McLoud, and I said, does he do that kind of work? I didn't need just general doctor, but I didn't know whether he would wash out an ear. And his wife is his secretary, and I asked her what. She said yes, he would. And I said, well, what would he charge for that? And she said $27. Washing out my ears. And I bought a little air syringe, and I didn't notice that in the box that there was a little vial of stuff drops to go in your ear. So I put those drops in and washed my ears out, and it just found out that then my hearing aid doctor looked in my ears, and he said there wasn't any wax. So I saved $27 by washing it out myself, and it was no trouble at all. And from now on, that's what I'll do. Well, with the hearing conditions, it seems like they have more wax than people that their ear doesn't function.
Well, I think I want to get back to my story about us not getting blown out of the whole terrain around there. We had to. You use a gas ejector. After you fired one of these, you had to slide that gas ejector down there, get the gas out, or you went to put the next one in, it wouldn't even go down, see. So he was 6'7".
Who was this?
The regular army wouldn't have taken him. The fellow that handled the gas ejector. Old Boss Sunlight. And that boss was his name. He used to go bat with him on that, you know, and say, oh, go on, soldier, give us your name. Don't give us any nickname. Say, that's it. Well, if you want it, take it. If you don't, well, forget about it. But anyhow, he saw what Ben Davis, Missouri Pippin, was about to do. Put this bomb in there upside down. And boy, if it had gone down like that, it'd have been Katie by the door. Because a 9-pounder just wiped 4 or 5 squads out down in Fort Worth, and they picked them up in a bushel basket. Wasn't enough left to identify anybody. But I was going to say, if a 9-pounder would do that, what would a 52-pounder do? But anyway, old boss, he shoved this guy out of the way right quick and grabbed the thing with his arm like this. And I was on the telephone. I was telephone operator.
Yeah.
I was on telephone, and somebody said, "What happened to gun number 3?" I said, "I'll find out." I said, "What happened to gun number 3?" Old boss said, "That damn fool tried to put the bomb in upside down. I caught it."
Boy, went off in that barrel, it would have been
Woo! I said, and imagine what would have happened.
We used to march and sing over there. We'll ram the
Oh,
gas
yeah.
ejector up there as we go marching on. Of course, they couldn't understand English. We was marching in.
Well, I tell you, that's what amused me though, was when we at Christmas we were up at Trier, Germany, or just out of Trier, Collins to be exact, and this family were very musical, and there was a young man that's pretty well grown up and 2 girls, and the father, mother and father, and the father played the cello in the theater, and the girl was very good on, the older girl was very good on the piano. So they sang Stille Nacht while we sang Silent Night, you know. You'd be surprised how well they got along, too.
Leonard used to sing on the quartet in
Oh,
our
yeah.
army
Yeah, like that.
and quite a lot of singing.
But I wasn't like Carrie Nation. She lost her voice in Wichita jail. I haven't been in jail, but I lost my voice up at St. Anthony's Hospital 16 years ago last February.
What caused it?
How's that?
What caused you to lose your voice?
I had a tumor about that big right between my lungs. It's close to my voice box is affected.
It's benign, though.
Oh, yeah, benign, yeah.
Well, my hearing is affected. I used to sing for everything around the country, but I even sang on the stage as a small girl up until I was 16. But I can't sing at all anymore.
I can't sing. I asked when I'd get over it and to be charitable. They said, 4 to 6 months. In 16 years, I think it's worse instead of better.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still here, so that helps a lot.
What date did you land in France?
About the 15th of July, a little thereafter.
And what did you do when you first landed in France? What did you all do?
They just put us on a train again, sent us down to Camp Lecorno, what the Americans call Camp Hunt, 40 kilometers southwest of Bordeaux, pretty well on the beach. We were close to the beach.
They put us in boxcars, you remember?
Well, they didn't by that time, that first time. When they sent us down there, we went on pretty good trains.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, I went on a boxcar, my bunch or something, seemed to me like.
Oh, when we left, that coming out we did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How long?
Going down there, we did, I don't think.
How long were you in Bordeaux?
What did you say, about 3 or 4 months?
I'd say so.
What did you do there?
We left there, I saw that thing said we left there the 25th of
Now that
November.
thing there would tell you, if you want to take a page of that, it tells when we left different places exact.
We left there the 25th of November.
What did you do in Bordeaux? Just train or what?
Well, a little bit, not too much. We just, seemed to me like we just waited and waited.
Well,
And of course, the flu
we went
epidemic
on.
hit.
We went to, we
Went on
got
a lot
our
of
guns
hikes.
and got practice. Yeah.
And they kept us moving. Now, we did do this. We went out and picked enough berries to have a lot of cobbler and all the fresh, either raspberries or blackberries, gosh. That's what they make the wine out of. They thought we were crazy. We took those back and ate them, all they use them for to make wine out of.
Well,
But, gosh, it was a treat for us.
we went by an old farmer's place and bought wine right out of the cellar from for 10 cents a quart.
Yeah.
And we hiked that day, a bunch of us went to the ocean shore, and they buried their bottles in the sand, and then the water'd come in and go over it, and you ought to seen they tore that, they couldn't find their wine. floated over it, you know. So they were really,
That's pretty heavy sea down there.
yeah.
And that they've got sand dunes there that are just like mountains.
Where is this?
It's southwestern France.
Close to Bordeaux.
Bordeaux is
next to the largest town it was when we were there.
Second largest.
Second largest
Nancy's,
in France.
Nancy's
Bordeaux,
large,
France.
I think. Nancy's Petit Paris, they call it. And then Bordeaux is next, I think. At least it was that way then. I don't know, it might change by now.
How come you were just waiting at Bordeaux? How come you were...
Well,
we went on, got our last training there is where
we did some training there. That's
you trained with Americans or the English or
Americans.
Americans.
Yeah. We didn't have but very few. We had an Englishman come train us down San Antonio, but I didn't think too much of it.
No.
Did you train in the trenches or what?
Pardon?
Did you train in the trenches?
Not too much. We did.
We set those. Our training was kind of in the trenches where we set them up.
Yeah. Set our mortars up.
So when did you first go out to meet the Germans?
Well,
we left there to go up to the front on the 25th of no, it would have been November because we left where the Army of Occupation 25th November.
Well, our infantry is the ones that really done the hard fighting. They done, when they throw this old 90th Division in on the front, they never moved back 1 inch. They went forward.
And they fought pretty all of it, too.
Of course, we are some of the, maybe that's the reason we're still here talking, because we followed them up, and if they ever needed us, so we went clean on into Germany and slept in them goose feather beds, one under us and one over us at Christmas time. Mm-hmm. I can shut my eyes and see this much when we hiked from Luxembourg into Germany, 4 abreast. As far as you could see was men walking going into Germany, and we hiked all day.
And trucks wouldn't pull over the mountains.
And, well, we hiked all day without our dinner, and then when we got in there, we had orders not to eat anything or drink anything. Well, them old German ladies, why they brought out coffee. They call it coffee. It was barley or some kind of grain.
Chicory.
Yeah, it's grain that was parched to where it just make the coffee look like coffee, you know. And that's what we had for a drink. They was good to us.
And they brought out jelly and stuff that they had to get.
Yeah, there's one old boy a little sick, and the old lady.
Schnapps is their liquor, you know.
They might have had in mind that they'd lick us the next time. You see, the airplanes was just coming into being, and so I come home and sent my boy back over there for
World War II.
Yeah, I went when I was 21 years old. My oldest boy, that one there, went when he was 21 years old, and the other, and there was 2 girls between my boys, and he went to Korea, and he had 2 hitches in Korea, and he was in Vietnam a while. He stayed in 22 years and come out lieutenant colonel. $1,500 a month retirement. That wasn't bad today.
Came out lieutenant colonel.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He talked his wife into selling real estate while he was still in the Army, and she sold the first year. She made $20,000 selling real estate in Tucson. And then when he got out, he stayed in 22 years. He went to school to sell real estate, you know. Now they own their own realty company, Rooker Realty in Tucson, Arizona. So he's done real well.
What was the trenches like?
Oh, we didn't know too much about the trenches. They got them out of them trenches and got them to moving, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, wherever you were, the mud was that deep.
How were the trenches built? How'd they build the trenches?
Oh,
by hand.
Dig them.
They just like they dug foxholes in World War II, you know, to crawl in for protection. They dig trenches for a mile, maybe.
It was zigzag like
and
that.
the Germans would be over here in trenches, and if one of them come out, well, they'd take a peek at him and.
Well, every once in a while they go over the top and they would
Yeah.
make a.
Yeah, when they give orders to move up, you know, and get them out of them trenches, that's where they lost a lot of men.
Yeah, did they have boards on the inside of the trenches or what? Did they shore up the sides of them or what did they do?
Well,
Sandbags
Some of them did.
To a degree.
I've seen pictures of them.
Yes. There was some that have logs to the bags of dirt.
Sandbags and everything.
More
keep
than
them from caving in.
So with all that rain, they just slough off, looks like.
your wood is too valuable.
It'd be so miserable, I've heard, in the trenches. It'd be so muddy, you know, wet.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody who's over there long since I have been, and they said that Dead Man's Hill is all grown up again. Gosh, I saw Dead Man's Hill and I saw that Halifax, Nova Scotia, that big explosion I had up there. They both look just alike.
What's Dead Man's Hill?
Dead Man's Hill was where they just sheared the lumber or the trees all off. Nothing standing up there with a stump popping out.
Where is it?
Well, it's not too far from Marne and that.
Where they was fighting the heaviest.
Isn't it awful that they just devastate the country, the towns and everything in war, and then all
Yeah, and then people still want it.
the dollars?
There's too many people still want more.
Yes.
Yeah, there's profit in it, you know.
And when you're leaders want war,
But what good to do if you're blown up?
Oh, don't you think that they kept this Vietnam War going just to keep the economy up and keep people employed and killed all our best young men? They was
Well,
that's apt to happen
every
again.
day of the world.
So many out of work and so
Every
many
day of the world, the
uneducated
president's trying to get more money for the.
Let me ask a question.
Okay.
What was the largest battle that you all were involved in the war?
well, we really wasn't involved in any real heavy battles, was we?
No, we were on the railroad that fired onto, what was the town that kept shelling and never did take?
I kind of forget, but the way we
Anyway,
they got them out of the trenches, and us with these trench guns, we couldn't use them in trenches, so we followed up, went right on through, clean on into Germany, and right where they quit fighting. But, you know, we couldn't catch them and carry them guns. We carried them as high as 10 miles one day to see if we could, you know, if they'd stop long enough that we could get into the battle. So I wasn't too anxious to catch them, to tell you the truth.
Now, it's called a trench mortar. Were they to be used in the
In
trenches?
trenches, you see. That's what might have saved our hides, because they got them out of those trenches, and then we
we
couldn't
lost
catch
one
them.
man in the duration of the war, and we lost him with meningitis.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when he died. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I remember the ladies' squad, they wouldn't let everybody go, but the ladies' squad go to the funeral.
yeah.
They wouldn't even open the casket then.
So you had the trench mortars on the railroad? When they put on the train?
Well, no,
You had to carry them.
we carried them. That's
Carried
when
them,
after
yeah.
we got the fighting, we carried them.
We carried them, yeah.
But I was signal corps, but I had a lot of equipment. Now you'd be surprised. I was supposed to be able, in that signal corps, to set up and make a switchboard. Well, now I don't think I was ever where I could have done that. I know I couldn't start to now, but I had worked on a switchboard enough that I knew to plug in.
Yeah, we was the
But we were
lucky
pretty
bunch, and they said if we'd ever went into action, you see, or we shooting them shells up that they could see it from the time it come out till it come down, they'd turn everything they had on it. They called us the Suicide Brigade.
You could have made splinters of this house for one of them.
How big's the barrel on these? Like a 52-pound shell. How big's the barrel on the mortar?
What is it? 6-inch bore.
It carried 10-pound nitroglycerin. You know about what that would do. And then we had gun cotton. There's a thing in the bottom of this shell that you drop down in this barrel that carried gun cotton and cordite. And one of them was an instant fuse, and the other one was delayed. See, one of them would delay before it'd go off, and the other one was an instant fuse. And that's what we was using to use.
They would dig a hole. They would dig a hole 2 to 4 feet deep, 30 feet across.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever cross, like, in the Bellow Wood area? Were you in that?
I've been to Bellow
We went
Wood.
through there, didn't we?
Yes, I went through there.
We went right. You see, they'd chased them out of there and got them moving. Time we were just a lucky bunch. I
What
guess.
does Bellow Wood look like?
What's this rolling country? It's quite pretty.
Is it the forest area? It's called Bellow Wood. I guess it's a wood
Yes,
area.
there's quite a few trees. I saw some of these Charlemagne cattle have most beautiful herd I ever saw in my life. I believe they would average 2,000 pounds a head, even the cows.
Yeah.
Now, well, I guess Bellow Wood was awful heavy fighting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
the cemetery. The cemetery there's one of the largest. Maine is the larger one, I think.
Okay, was they blown away like Dead Man's Hill, where all the trees blasted away?
Yes, not too far from that. Now, I went. That's why I looked at the stone, and they crossed. I thought, well, I wasn't going to look at it, and I said, well, I'll look at one. I believe I'll just look at the second one. I stepped over there and looked at it. William Nathan Smith, such and such company, 359th Infantry. And I didn't know he stayed in the 90th Division. He went when we did. I took him down to camp. And I knew he was killed, but imagine me going down to one cross I looked at with 4,000 to 6,000 soldiers buried, and the one cross I looked at was William Nathan Smith, Kingfisher, Oklahoma. And he had transferred out of the 357th into the 359th. He didn't even leave the 90th, but he went to another.
What were the other battlefields you crossed?
Well, we went from where they started fighting right on up, followed them clean into where they quit fighting.
Yeah. They were Shadow Theory when we got over there.
Yeah, we were just we was the backup bunch that followed up. That if they ever needed us for infantry or anything, we'd train with guns, carrying guns, and had if it ever stopped for trenches, why we might not have been here.
So you were the reserve unit then?
Yeah, we were.
We carried sidearms. You might have had a.
Oh yeah, they had.
But we went into Germany without sidearms. A few of the non-coms, I guess 3 or 4 of them did, and the officers had them. But the rank and file didn't have any.
We had
November 11th, 1918, Armistice Day.
Yeah.
What'd you all do?
I went to headquarters with Claude Anderson to get a sidecar for the motorbike, and he hadn't been used to riding a sidecar for 2 or 3 years. He ran into the curb and bent the fork on it, and we waited to get that fork fixed when we found the middle afternoon. We found out Armistice had been signed that morning.
What'd you do?
Well, that night, I remember the night so good because we went into town and we decided we was going to get drunk.
That was the night before, or
That was
the night was
armistice was signed, and we went down that night, and they lit the street lights for the first time in 4 years and so many months.
where was this?
It was in France.
France. What town was it? Do you remember?
Well, we
Rooker is one of them.
where was we?
No, it wasn't Stenay, but
We was around
Angelo and Rooker was the two towns.
that we was at that night that we were in that town.
Rooker was our headquarters.
I know they said old Rooker come in quacking last night.
I didn't go to town.
That was the nearest I ever got
I had
come getting drunk was
I had
that night.
drinks at Tonsil.
And
I don't think I had a drink.
You didn't.
he was a pretty good boy.
If I did have one, it was if somebody came in and probably would have taken it.
Or did you celebrate then, or what?
I had that, well, to a degree, of course.
Yeah, that's.
I was there when
The
this,
Americans would holler. That boy, you could hear them. They done a lot of hollering in the early days. Farm
just
boys
like
around
out in the
here would
country.
holler. Just get out and holler. And so them Frenchmen said, "Whoopee, American." We was hollering.
when we were there at Blancheville up in that widow's barn there,
Yeah,
by,
or the racehorses.
yeah, I was going to say, you could just do about what you please there because that's just like out in the country. There wasn't much town.
Yeah.
And then you two were in the Army of Occupation for a while?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we hiked in there on Christmas Day, and it was
like
snowing,
3 days.
and I told you about marching in that bunch of men, 4 abreast, as far as you could see, and we hiked on into Germany, and we sent a man ahead. I forget, I believe the guy from Seminole was one of them, had some German blood in him, and they stationed so many, they'd go to each house and say, how many Americans can you take? And if they'd look the situation over, and they'd send so many men into every home in a village or a town. And so that's where we really got acquainted with the German people.
Shaw was very good, you know. Shaw spoke quite a bit of German.
Bernkastel, Germany was our headquarters when we got there. And then they stationed us out in little villages out from...
That was Andel
Yeah.
on the Moselle.
Yeah. And they grew their vineyards right up and down the mountain there on that river. Maybe you've been there, I don't know. And,
Koblenz is where the Moselle empties into the Rhine. Where the Koblenz place.
yeah.
And, of course, Bernkastel QS is pretty well known, too.
So where'd you cross the Rhine into Germany?
We didn't cross the Rhine.
You didn't?
No.
How'd you?
And I don't think any
We
of
come
them
we come right around it though there, didn't
Yeah,
we?
we were within 12 kilometers, which is less than 10 miles, when we were at Bernkastel. Now, Bernkastel wasn't on the Rhine, but it was awfully close.
Yeah. I know,
The Moselle there, right? Pretty good sized boats.
they growed their vineyards right up and down those mountains, and they had steps between each row of grapes up these mountains, and they'd carry manure and pile it out down at the roadway way down to the foot of the hill. And guy'd stand there with a sack on his back, and they'd load it up with fertilizer, and he'd start up there and go to the top of that, and then they'd put that manure up there, and as it rained, it come all the way down. And
We had to do guard duty, you know. When you get up there, they celebrate the holidays, you know. And of course, one of the orders we had, not to let everybody congregate on our post, you know. And he said Rouseman was a time or two. They did Rouseman was very good. And he weighed 108 pounds dripping wet. Poor Drake, you remember Drake?
yeah,
The little East Side New Yorker. And So we were guarded with fixed pens. When he came back, when he came back in, well, he'd make a little.
Now, you may have one of these, but I know you know some of them.
Yeah, I think I've got that thing.
Or this a group photo?
This is our company.
That old Ben Townsend.
Yeah.
That's the Capitan. I saw him. He was working at Boston Loman was said, yeah, that's Leonard P.
Cook. Where's you? Captain Blocker.
Here's Leonard P. right here.
Let's see, where am I?
That's about
Mr. Gray, that's you up there?
Yeah, that's great.
First, the Clorer of the settlement.
Here I am.
Mr. Rooker, that's you.
Yeah, that's me.
He had shiny black hair. Believe it or not.
Well, there's no names on here.
No, I know that.
Let's see. The names now is on that I showed you over here.
Yeah.
We got the
Here's a
captain.
Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's Indian.
Captain Blocker and William. Let me see. That's Captain.
Well, was Haller with us?
Yeah, Haller was a
I thought he left before that time.
He transferred out right at the last.
Yeah. He wasn't there, I don't think, on that. Joe Myers.
Now, let me see. Mr. Gray, where are you say?
That's him.
Right there.
He was slender.
I weighed about 106. Weighed 184 when it came out.
1, 2, 3, fourth row down.
Yeah. There's the top for that. He was my buddy.
Mr. Gray,
He's
here's
still alive.
The second line down here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 row down, second over. On the right-hand side. Yeah.
And that was their officer there.
Yeah.
Now this gives all the people that's in our company the names of every one of them.
What I'd like to do is take this and copy it and give it back to you. If I
Okay, you just take it along.
Could. Yeah. And I was.
Give it to me if you're going after mail.
Yeah. And then I was talking to Mr. Gray. If you have any photographs, we have a photographer that can make copies of the photographs. Then we get the photographs back to you. If you let us do that.
Do we have any photographs of me? I've got one somewhere, but
what?
photographs of me.
No, Harry Grace. You know.
You
Uh-huh.
in the circle?
Roy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somewhere.
You remember Harry Grace?
I thought you showed
I'd known his brother-in-law for 20 years when he was old Reed.
There's Puckett right there, and that
Grace died several years ago.
that was a nice
That was
little.
the top kid.
Yeah, he was the one that told me
Here's Reese.
if you hadn't shaved while you come in, and everybody that hadn't shaved, and said he was putting them on KP a
I
week
used to see
for,
this fella.
for not shaving, and
He
I
did
didn't
shave
even
like
have
that.
to shave. I didn't have a beard then. And he said, Rooker, how often do you shave?
Oh,
And I said, once a week. And he said, well, you be sure and shave once a week.
Old Foxy. Boy, that guy's name was Fox, and he was correct with me.
What did he do?
Yeah, and,
Wasn't he?
yeah. And the guy had it tied around his leg, and he got it.
Buddy Carter.
These gamblers, yeah.
Somebody said $4,000. I don't know what I know.
Yeah, there was some heels in there, though.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's
That old Rex.
There's old Deese, wasn't it?
Yeah, John Deese. I used to
John
know. He was just hard, and Joe never got an honorable discharge.
There's Fred.
He knocked the captain there, lieutenant through the windmill.
There's Fred.
At a cat house.
Yeah.
Fred, what is his name from Guthrie?
Yeah, Brown.
Fred Brown, yeah.
That old Baldwin. You know, Baldwin made a lot of money.
Did he?
String of horses in the oil field when they're still using teams, you know. This, here's Grover Lowe. That man's 90 years old.
Yeah. He's the only three of us that's left.
But we're the only three that
we know of.
We know of.
Where does he live? He lives
at Lawton.
Lawton.
He's pretty well fixed.
Yeah.
His daughter is one of the secretaries of
what's his name?
Methodist Church. Grover C. Lowe.
Grover C. Lowe. Lawton.
This fellow, I think, died.
Oh, yeah.
Loman. He's the guy that put me in the fight with him. And he was about 6'2" and 210 pounds.
This is a picture of Mother and you kids when we were on the stage.
That old Nick.
There's old...
Here's Dolph Burnett. Dolph's still alive.
Yeah, is he?
Yeah. Here's Sarah Leonard. I don't know if
we don't know.
That's Likens. He's not. He's not.
No, Likens been dead 55
and that's old
years.
Satchel Butler. He's been dead for 10, 15 years. There's White.
The Likens and I left here together and come back. Got off the train here at Dale when we came home.
This is a Frenchman that we had there.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a guy from. This guy's from Mulhall, Baltimore.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Yeah, there's.
Shaw be on there somewhere too. Shaw's up there. There's the boy that died years ago. He died TB. I think he had what is it now? That old Smith, you know, old Perrin, Chuck Perrin.
Yeah.
He's the guy from Wichita Falls, Texas.
This is
Deese, John Deese.
Yeah.
And what's this fellow's name? He went to Johnny. He was with the Senate.
Oh, yeah.
Conductor.
Yeah.
There's old Kenneth Eskridge Box.
Yeah, you know a lot of.
Yeah.
Old Box, he was a cook.
And here's Carter.
He was a cook for the.
Little Shorty Carter.
Yeah, he was our bugler, wasn't he?
Yeah. And here's Chekovich.
Yeah, kiddo, what you know. Gun shoot 72 miles, gun shoot, he said.
No can do.
Yeah. Let's see, there's a guy. Who's this? I don't know him. She call his name. Yeah, there's.
There's a bunch of lousy pictures. The old Phillips here. He's been dead for several years. He died over at Coeta.
Yeah. I'll get a.
And they met these girls somewhere from Oklahoma, and this was a buddy up here too. And this is our oldest son in uniform.
Here's Shaw. There's Shaw right there. Look at it, isn't he?
Yeah, that's old.
He was 2 years older than I am.
Goose Shaw is a goose. Which one?
No,
Goose Robertson.
Goose Robertson.
Down there.
That'd be that son.
Wait, let's see.
This is Roy. And a friend taken when he was about.
If you'd study him a while, I remember him real well. That's
One of these faces registered, maybe the names are gone.
yeah. Just faces comes right back to you. There was.
Here's the Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce Robertson.
That's the way it looked when he first went in. This one's not been too long after.
Yeah, it gets me up.
I don't think
I
so.
got pictures everywhere.
I think I got that picture, but I'm not sure. I'll tell you, I had one frame, I think that was it. I was sorry I was spending the money on it. You got too much heat yet. You turn the thermostat down.
That thing's 60-odd years old.
It's going to get a little tighter.
I doubt if I have that picture. My niece might have.
I don't know how come they does have it. It's just,
Sometimes you
Was this taken in San Antonio?
put it up in a box and
Yeah, could have been.
I'm pretty sure it was, because we didn't stop
I
and
don't-
take pictures.
Howard must have been on vacation or something. Hey, he went away to school a while. He was
Yeah.
the next one to the captain, you know.
Yeah.
And he would have been in that picture. That's after Ernie came to us.
This is what you thought you might take.
Yeah, if you'll let us. There's
We
some
have
pictures in here I'd
the
like to
history
copy
of it.
also.
somebody wrote,
Okay.
did you write the
Yeah.
history of
We
the,
didn't tear 'em out at
your
the
time staying? Well, we had a kind of like a diary, and it's somewhere here.
My
but I don't
diary
know what it is.
is, I feel like,
And it's written in longhand, but it's
What,
written very eligible.
oh, I can, you can read mine very well. It's a little, one of those little booklets, you know, it looks like a wine purse.
That's what it
It
is.
sits about this big.
Instead of
And
tearing
if
them
I
out,
got thick,
I just take the whole book and
single
just
page.
copy them, and then
Yeah.
I can bring it back out.
But the pages are fast in there.
It's so hard to
And I have a
keep
piece
things
of
for
paper
years
all
and
signed
years and
together,
years.
then
And
I'll
I
bring it
think
back
we
here.
still have it, but
Okay.
I'd have
My
to tear the
name
house
on
down
here,
to find
yeah.
it.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
that'd be-
I got boxes on the back closet shelf,
I didn't
way up
start to
high.
look at stuff. I looked in my strong box, the metal box, but I had everything in there.
Oh, you got your strong box. Well,
I didn't find it in there. I think it might be in
Our
my desk.
headquarters in
Yeah.
France.
Well,
We
Yeah, I brought
cleaned
this
up
in
in
the
the
house,
house.
but I had a good one.
All
So at least
skins,
cut her on the neck.
we have a strong
Which
box
one is
in,
you?
the bank.
I
You
don't
know, I'm gonna miss that little booger when she goes.
Now, two of those have X's over them.
Before I do,
There's an X
and
over
I'm
here,
inclined to believe she will.
and there's an X over
But
here.
she just seems to get a little
It's
weak.
just hard, and things will
Yeah, I think this is me
But,
for,
well,
or
I'll tell you,
somebody
here's something else. I don't think I'll
Yeah,
keep
that's
that
me, but.
house too long after.
You don't
If
think
she
what?
I don't think I'd try to keep that house at all.
This you?
Nobody else will want them.
She, well, she's giving it to me,
Oh, yeah.
which I think
Now,
is
this
fine.
is me.
Boy, he's taking care of her
Me
like a
and
lady.
the three that left here,
And he
they
cut, not cut the grass,
Same
came
time.
home from church. She came over and brought us some lunch. And, she came over the other night and brought her dinner when I went to go to lodge. Sat and listened to her almost time I got home.
Mrs. Rooker?
Hayden.
Mrs. Rooker? What did you do during World War One?
What did I do?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I stayed home, and my folks wouldn't let me look at another boy because they liked Roy. And
Her
so
mother,
I
like me, and I just left her in charge of her mother while I was gone.
I was 16 when he left, and I was 16 when wasn't quite 16. And then when he came on a furlough, he proposed to me, but I didn't accept him because I liked him very much, but I didn't know that I was in love with him. And so then after he came home, we corresponded all while the war, and then when he came home, we dated for a year before we married, so that to get acquainted. Really, we wasn't very acquainted.
I had
never
a
riding.
rubber-tired buggy, and I went with her just a very few times in it when I left, you know.
Yeah, we just had a few days. I met him though when I was 14 at a wedding dance, and I danced with him. But then I didn't see him for several months afterwards, and then we went attended a sale, and he was there. He's a little show off, you know. He run and jumped the wire fence. Why? Because he knew I was watching, and I didn't like that. I didn't like the boy that tried to show off. And so then I didn't. I never. The folks wouldn't let me date until after I was 15, and then very few. I never had many boyfriends.
There was
I
five.
could go. They'd come out to see me, but they wouldn't let me go with them.
There was 5 of us boys, and we all met her at the same time. And my sister said, "You got her."
Well, so you didn't do any like canteen work during the war?
Did I what?
Do any canteen work?
Oh no,
Yeah.
my folks wouldn't have let me at all.
Did your parents do
No,
any work?
We lived in Shawnee, and when I was 10, we went to California and stayed until I was 14. And so then we moved back here, and we moved over here to New Orleans. Dad had 40 acres that he always worked indoors, but he just wanted to get out and grow things.
Mm-hmm.
He was raised on a farm as
Oh,
a
he
child.
was.
So he bought 40 acres of ground that was just blackjack, and it had to be all cleared. And this Mr. Wheeler that had the big plow and the oxen, but he didn't have oxen and sand. He broke the land for Dad. And so that's how I met Lloyd. I didn't meet him until we came back here to New Orleans. And I hated New Orleans. I married one reason to get away from it. And then I got into worse, because Roy farmed so big, and Dad just had he grew strawberries and all kinds of fruit. But he never did make any money until he went to work for OG&E, and then he worked for about 25 years for OG&E. Dad always did better working for the other fellow, but he just loved to grow
I
things.
like OG&E stock.
And I hate to grow anything. I don't want to mess with it. I won't dig in the dirt and everything. I was a
Mr. Rooker?
farmer's wife, but I didn't like the outdoor work at all. But I have helped in the garden, and I only helped when I absolutely needed to, and we couldn't get in, because he always hired help. He worked. I wondered why he couldn't work without somebody with him. And he grew up with those 4 brothers, and they all worked together, and he did that for years, and he just couldn't get used to it.
Yeah, we'd go through the cotton field. We'd take 5 rows down, 5 back. You could see, and then when I got married and got out on my own, it's awful slow. Just me, just like one.
Well, it wasn't so slow. You always had help. I'd rather cook for them and even keep them at night than to get out myself and do the work.
We went through the Depression days. We went through the Depression days, I say, and I've had people, young men, about your size and age nearly, call up and want a job, said they worked for their board and tobacco. Nobody stole anything them days. They'd work, boy, and they'd work, take care of you and go break land all day.
4 children was tickled to death either, but he'd buy a sack of flour with the 50 cents. And working every day, he'd have 2.5. Well, you could buy a great big box of groceries for 2.5.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he'd come. I helped guys that couldn't help themselves, it looked like. They'd come, maybe I'd be plowing over here, 12-inch plows and 2 mules, and the guy'd come wanting a job, 50 cents a day. And I'd just take the lines off and give them to them and start and do something else. Maybe crawl under the barn and find a hen nest. I had chickens and milk the old cows a little better. And if you could get 5 gallons of cream, why, it'd bring $10. Well, I could give him $3, and then I'd have money to spend and some to bring home with me nearly.
You can't get a hamburger 10 cents. And
Yeah.
a cup of coffee a nickel.
I got haircuts for a quarter too.
Yeah, I have to.
Now what do you pay? $5 or something?
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
All things were so
I get my haircut for $3.50. And people say, "What in the world are you
I
going to
got
cut for
a
that?"
break here about 3 months ago. They put me in a pacemaker. my heart.
The veterans did that.
I guess I just about.
That's a wonderful organization.
Just about
You've
wore.
been in the service.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you ought to join the American Legion if you haven't, because they're wonderful because they could give Roy just wonderful care and all. That would cost about $5,000. Never cost him a penny. And they even ordered his medicine up there, and they send it postage free and send it to him free.
They're good to me, but at one time they cut me open up here down below my navel. Went in there, I had an ulcer, and then they messed me up, or I was messed up to where they kept calling me back, and finally they called me back and had me marked for surgery again. They was going to go back in there and see what they'd done right or what they'd done wrong. So I told them, I said, I'm 70 some odd years old and getting along pretty good. I said, would you have it done? I asked the doctor. Well, he didn't say he would, and he didn't say he wouldn't. So I come home, and it was 18 years later, I went back. I heard another World War I say that they'd sign you a doctor and really see after you. And so I went back up there, and I bet it wasn't 6 weeks or 2 months, was it? So my heart just slowed down to where it's hitting 34 times a minute. And they put me on that.
They put him in intensive care immediately because they
scared him to death. They talked about putting in my arm. They talked about putting a pacemaker in my arm for temporary. And then they said, well, I bet he's been shoving, one of the nurses said, I bet he's been shoving that lawnmower, and it just hitting like that. And so they kept me on that for about 3 or 4 days, and then they cut in here and put that thing in and come back and plugged it in. And it went from 34 to 72 or 74 a minute. And it just kept that up. It's just, boy, that's just like a new motor, I guess.
Has been that ever, and it doesn't bother him a bit. In fact,
I said, well, I wasn't going to let it bother me, and I was
I think it just saved his life.
Mr. Rooker, what did you do in the 20s?
In the 20s, raised cotton. When I come back here in the 20s, we got married, and my brother stayed with me, and we farmed about 100 acres of cotton. And that year we got the premium bale, and my brother and I, and then it started going down. And when we got 35 cents or better to start with, and then when it got down about 20 cents, my brother said he wasn't going to sell anymore, and so I sold another, and after he quit, he'd sell a bale, and I'd sell a bale. And we must have had 100 acres in. We'd have made 100 bales if we got it picked. And so
the bottom fell out. They never got anything.
Yeah, and then finally we started hauling it home and piling it up in my dad's yard over here. It looked like a cotton yard. And we rolled that stuff around there. And we finally had to tear off what rotted. It turned yellow, and we tore that off and sold it for 7 cents a pound, the whole crop. That's what we got.
Where was the gins around here, the cotton gins?
It was 4 gins in McLoud, and 1 in Dale, and 1 in New Orleans, and now there's not a gin
in the county, isn't
No, I don't think there's a gin in 100 miles.
Did you know a man by the name of Forrest Knipe, Knipe?
Yeah. Knight, I know the Knights down around Shawnee.
No, this is Knipe, Knipe.
Oh.
He managed cotton gins in the area.
Well, I don't particularly know. Yeah. I know Lyles and the different ones that run gins in McLoud.
Mm-hmm. Who ran the gin in Dale?
Oh, he did.
No, who did?
Oh, that's back before I know just who was running that.
Brown or Jones?
I'm not sure who run that Dale.
I was going to tell you one about the Depression. a while ago. I had an auntie that was supposed to have had some money. Told me several different times that I was going to be her particular heir, but I didn't prove to be. But anyway, after she passed away and finally got the estate settled up, I don't know what happened to it, but the money did dwindle pretty fast. But just like out of the blue, I got a check for $108 and some odd cents.
Yeah.
I want you to know, I went down and bought the very first coats that my kids had ever had. Like they're factory-made coats, you know. Mm-hmm. They were pretty close to teenagers then, 11 or 12. They were beautiful coats.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I bought something else. Oh yeah, paid my taxes, something I had to do, you know, out of that $108. I bought those 2 coats. I bought a whole sack of groceries, and I bought something for my wife. I don't remember now what it was. But out of $108, some odd cents, and I had money left.
Yeah.
Paid my taxes.
Well, you could buy a pretty dress for $3, and the $10 you
I
got
forget what I
name
paid for
brand.
those coats, but I know I was pleasantly surprised.
Well,
They
sugar
were
was
nice
$4
looking
or
coats.
$5 a pound. You could buy 100 pounds of sugar for $5.
Yeah. Now you can buy 10 pounds for that if you're lucky.
Yeah. What did you all do during the Dust Bowl?
Well, we still farmed here. It got pretty.
We had a lot of dust storms.
Dust that
Just a
fall
lot.
in.
Roy'd come in just dirty as could be, and you'd hardly see his eyes, you know, working out in it.
How'd you try to keep the dust out of the house? What would you do?
Well, it was hard. Everything would be covered with it. Old red sand, you know, that just
You put anything over the windows or
Get
doors
out
or
of New
anything?
Mexico.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, Colorado.
We had.
oh, you just sweep it
Of course,
out.
now we got the modern deal on the windows, over the windows.
Well, we haven't had any of those dust storms like that in years.
What'd you do,
They
Mr.
paved
Gray?
the street out here.
I was traveling.
Oh
I
yeah.
went working for the Universal Insurance Company at that time. And I started to go to the Panhandle one day from Woodward. I looked up and could see that storm coming. And I started back towards Oklahoma City. And by the time I got to Sealing, I saw it was going to catch me. So I stopped at what the heck's the town over there? Major County. Anyway, it's a little larger town.
Cherokee?
Huh?
Was it around Cherokee in that area?
No, it's below Cherokee, south of Cherokee. Can't think of the name of it now. It's
Yeah.
should remember. It's Major County, anyway. And anyway, I did something very foolish because I understand that's where a lot of people met their death. Open up the windows on the opposite side, and it was just worn out, you know. The static electricity from that storm just way out, just like somebody working on you with something. And I lay down and slept soundly, and when I got up, the sheet just looked a taupe brown, about like that table over there. And I just took that thing up and threw the dirt over on the floor. And you could see your tracks in the hall, you know. You'd walk down the
Got
hall.
that much
Well,
dust
that
got in
comes
the
out
house, huh?
Yeah.
That's the spread
That was-
on your bed, you know.
That was a good modern hotel. Of course, they didn't have air conditioning then very much. And anyway, I went down and had a pretty good dinner. And I slept pretty well. And the storm either passed over, kind of subsided that night. Next morning, got up and went into it just pretty as you please. Nice
They
day.
come up so quick.
You said a lot of people met their death.
They met their death by opening up the house and going to bed and put something trying to keep the dirt where they would inhale the moisture.
It gets almost dark. It's twilight, you know, too.
And it was pretty,
air
yes,
was
that's
just
right.
full of
You
it.
couldn't see to drive.
Well, you was more up where there was
Yeah,
more dust up
that
in your
was
country.
bad up there.
Yeah.
But I sure was glad I didn't put that fan in the try. Because
Oh, I hate it.
I'd have been out in the wilds when that thing hit there. I kept well ahead of it pretty much, you know, I got to.
Well, you put what, like a damp rag over your face to breathe
Yeah.
or what?
But that way you get pneumonia from it. I don't remember when I put a damp rag over my face. But even just going to bed was a dangerous thing because you wanted to shut that dust out the best you could.
Did you have any
And
dealings?
everything banging, you know.
Oh, yeah.
If you lived in an old house, why it sure banged around
You know,
the doors and
that
everything.
young lady's got a date in 2 hours, and we better.
Say, I've got to go to the doctor this
We better
afternoon.
not
I
get
have
Let me
not
ask one
had
more
it
question.
too.
Mr. Rooker, what did you do during World War II?
Well, I worried about my son. We'd hear the
That's why he had the officers and had the operation.
you would hear 400 planes or more went out, and I didn't know I was worrying. I didn't, you know.
200 to come back or 100?
Yeah, it'd be probably 40 of them didn't come back. Well, he'd let us know up until a certain time how many missions he'd made.
He wrote every day.
Yeah, and
They
then
didn't
when
get 'em
he,
every day.
I know he'd made about 21 missions, he made 32, wasn't it, altogether, when he'd made, he said, Betty is 21 years old today. Well, we knew her age, you know.
She was 16, and we knew he was telling us.
Telling
that
us
because,
how many missions he'd made up to that time. Well, I didn't realize that I was probably worrying, but then that ulcer showed up, and then...
I've had ulcers.
It just eats on you
Mr.
all
Gray,
the time.
you say that you helped entertain troops during World War II?
We had 122 that signed the register, and the kids would start that for 2 or 3 months after the
Now, that's
war
the troops that
started.
stayed at your house?
Yeah, they would come in and maybe go to church with us. And
That was in Oklahoma
I
City.
even let a little German kid from Chicago. I even let him take a car and drive it. He never had any trouble with it.
That was in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. I had 4 new tires. I was lucky than most people.
What were you all doing on Pearl Harbor Day? What was your reaction? What?
Oh, that was, you know, they
Scared
declared
to
war
death.
on my birthday, the 8th of December. And I cried all day. I was 40 that day, and I cried all day. Because I knew I had the son that was old enough, he was 21 then, you know.
I went to
I
church.
knew that he'd have to go. What?
I went to church. I remember that. And then I went to a church meeting that night. But, of course, they said that they shelled the mainline too, you know, but they didn't. That wasn't true. They never did.
We heard it on radio, but I don't remember whether someone called us and said, listen in on the radio, or whether we just happened to tune in and heard it.
We just have to
just
turn
couldn't
radio
believe
on after we got home from church. And of course, it happened early out there. There's about 4 hours difference, of course.
Oh, and you know, they didn't know
Aye,
it as
it's
bad
fine.
as it actually was at first. So we didn't know how bad it was over in Hawaii.
I've
And
been
then we
out
had the
there.
fear they would come on and bombard our coastline, you know, San Francisco and
I don't think they ever,
Seattle.
they didn't ever come to
No, they
the
didn't.
mainland at all. No.
Yeah. Mr. Rooker, you just mainly farmed through World War II?
I've raised right in here a circle. I've raised cattle. I've raised hogs. I've raised canes and a little bit of
Cattle.
everything. Yeah, I've
And
raised
hogs and sweet potatoes and blackberries.
chickens. Yeah, I had 27 acres of blackberries at one time. And boy, our kids was all home and. And boy, our kids was all home, and we'd pay them 2 cents a quart to pick them, and then we finally wound up paying a dime a quart.
People were out of work, you know, and the whole families had come out and pick berries. and bring their little kids, and the kids just worked fine. But then when Tinkerfield went in and began to hire so many, why, the fathers began to work up there, because they get so much more money. And then the kids wasn't worth a hoot.
They wouldn't work.
Did you see the hill yesterday, how much they paid old Pete
But my
Rose?
daddy's got a good job.
Play baseball another year?
It ruined the kids.
$1,200,000. Man 42 years old to play ball. How about that?
Yeah, and then these football players,
The first job that I ever had, I wanted to go to Enid. Enid was 30 miles away. Gosh, that was a distance a few years ago, And my dad said, well, you may go, but he said, I don't have any money. I said, Mr. Clark wants somebody to chop cotton. He said, he'll give you a quarter a day in your dinner. Of course, noon meal is dinner in the country, Yeah. I worked from daylight till dark for 8 days for a quarter a day. That's the first money I ever made in my life.
What year was that?
It was in 1910.
Well, the last question, as an overview, what was your feeling about World War I? What's your overall feeling about it?
Well,
And I would say just about like all the rest of the wars.
we started in to win that war, and we started in to win World War I, and then they didn't start in to when we're in the.
They don't want to win
when
it
you was
anymore.
in Vietnam, they didn't start in to win that, and they just started it up for I think they did.
Well, we voted for Woodrow Wilson to keep us out of the war. I wasn't old enough to vote for him.
I voted for Wilson.
And then they were mad at him, when he declared war, but he was practically forced on doing.
Mr. Rooker, was your grandfather in the Civil War?
No, but a lot of my dad's brothers was in the Civil War. My grandfather died with, they call it cramp colic them days. It might have been appendicitis.
He was 40.
He's on his way to town.
It might have been a heart attack, too.
Stopped at a neighbor's house and died. They didn't have no doctors much or anything them days.
Daddy Rooker was only 8 years old. And
Somebody knocked on the door back there.
Daddy Rooker Roy's father was only 8 years old when the war was going on, and they lived in Georgia, and they had slaves. And so the mother just kept the slaves, after her husband died. And so Roy, his oldest brother, was 21 years old when he was born. He had about 8 children. And so, but Daddy Rooker remembered refuging to South Carolina.
It was a false knock of some kind. There was nothing out there.
What was it?
I don't know.
Spooky.
Something spooky around.
And the mother Rooker took her children.
Yeah,
she had to leave everything. Sherman was coming through Georgia, burning everything in front of him, and so they hurriedly left. And she took some of her slaves with her. And I don't know how many she took, but anyway, one of the boys, a Negro boy, that was, when Daddy Rooker was born, he said, now that he's going to be your charge. You're going to have to see after Leroy. So when he went to take old Nigger Jared with him, of course he was a young man at that time, he hid out and found out that he had married a girl, a colored girl from another plantation, and he didn't want to leave her. So grandmother Rooker bought her and took her with him, and gave $800 for her of good United States money, and then their money was Confederate money, and that's where it was worthless, So when they came back after Sherman had gone through, their house was burnt, everything was burnt, but they had hid some valuables and silverware and one of those
bottom rail of rail fence.
Rail fence, and it was still there. But they were so destitute; they didn't have anything, gardens or anything. I don't know how they got by. They almost
Well,
starved.
they dug up where those old smokehouses been burnt down. Or they dug the soil up and boiled it to get the salt out of that
They couldn't get salt even.
What part of Georgia was this?
What?
What part of Georgia was this?
At Resaca. He was born at Resaca, and their plantation was near Resaca.
So they were all on the side of the South?
I don't. There's nothing there anymore. They built back, but I don't think there's. We went through Georgia and tried to visit things, but people don't remember, and asking about where they lived, why they didn't know.
They didn't know where certain cemeteries was. It was
A beautiful military cemetery, and so many of the little blocks, or the tombstones, they were just little straight up and down, rounding at the top. Had boys 18 years old and young lieutenants 22 years old that had died, in the war. But it was a beautiful place, and the CCC boys had built a rock fence around it, and they had beautiful trees in it. It was well kept. But people that lived right there close said, I've heard of the cemetery. We've never been there. They don't go anywhere in Georgia, I don't think. And there was the old breastworks, where they fired from up on a hill. We asked about that and wanted to see it. And they didn't know about it. They never had seen it. Anyway, the ones we asked was the dummies, I guess, because they never knew anything about what was going on in there. They could have seen for years, didn't know it. But it's beautiful country, Georgia is.
Mm-hmm.
It is
that
pretty
your
good.
whistle going?
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard here.
Well, I think we better.
Yeah, we better get along. I've enjoyed it.